Okay, I want to say a few quick thank yous, and then I want to also invite up some very, very, very special guests. First of all, there's a bunch of people here who worked on the film, and I really need to thank them. Firstly, Colin Nussbaum, all the way in the back, amazing editor and collaborator. David Teague, who has believed in me forever and is the most amazing editor and gave notes all along the way. Could not have done this without him. Julie Goldman, the great Julie Goldman, she's somewhere. She was an executive producer of ours and just so much wisdom all along the way. Who else am I missing? Caroline Rothstein, associate producer, who came on the trip, first ever trip. Dan Davis, who helped with the music. And last but not least, Deb Brand. Where is she? Come on up. She's my partner in crime. She was in the field with me pretty much on every single trip. And I could not have ever made this film without her. So. And we have another special guest. Lene is here. Andy's parents are here, and if they want to just stand and maybe say hello, or you're welcome to come up too if you'd like to join. The amazing Celaya family, they're unbelievable people, and I'm so happy to have them here from Arizona. And a quick shout out to all of you guys for being here. Thank you so much.
Great. I'm sure there are lots of questions. I'm going to just start off with a couple of basic ones to get them out of the way, and then I'd love to open it up to questions from the audience. So you're not from Arizona, so what drew you there? How did you find out about Florence, and what inspired you to make the film?
Yeah, my very close friend and one of our executive producers, David Mentrell, he was in Florence 4 years ago, basically, and came back and took all these great photographs and said, you have to check out this town. It's a crazy little town. And I just got really curious. Some of his pictures were like, there was like a Sonic drive-through with a prison behind it, or a McDonald's with a prison behind it, and I just said, sort of, what is life like in a town with that many prisons, where the prisons are just juxtaposed with everyday life. Right. And so, yeah, actually, it was 4 years ago, after seeing Cave of Forgotten Dreams at DOC NYC, that David was like, you need to go make your own film. And so, yeah, so basically, that's where it all came.
And so you took a research trip there, I'm assuming, and how quickly did you find Lene and your other subjects?
So Lene we met, we put out the word on Facebook before we went. And the first trip, and this woman Sharon actually said, okay, we're going to organize a welcoming committee for you at the Bud Shop on Main Street. Okay. And so, yeah. So she did, and Lene was one of the people who was there, and I always say she came, she sort of came around with some Christmas cookies and little baggies. She was like a little fairy, and she just like gave us cookies, and then she just, opened up her home and her heart to us after that. Yeah.
And so, Lene, can you talk a little bit about, so did you know what you were getting yourself into?
No.
So you were running a campaign, but also being followed along at the same time by a
Thank you for saying that.
Yes.
I had never done either one before, run for mayor or been in a movie, and every time I turned around, she was shoving a mic down my throat. It was a wild experience, but I'm grateful, and look at these great friends I've made.
Absolutely. I can jump on in again, but I'd rather open it up to the audience if they've got questions for you. And I hope I broke the ice a little bit, and folks have some questions for you.
Yeah, this is basically everybody I know in New York City is in this room. Ask away.
Yes? Okay. Oh, yes, please.
No, they went to another town.
So the question is, did Gio get the contract? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have another question right here. Now shy again? Okay. Oh, yes, please.
Is HBO picking up this?
I mean, one can hope. I don't know. We'll keep our fingers crossed. I don't know. We're definitely looking for television broadcast, all of that sort of like, we're sort of getting all that started now. Yeah.
Right there, please.
Hi, Andy. Florence.
Hi.
I'm curious, was the decision not to interview inmates aside from the last known man because you wanted to focus on the town, or was there another reason behind it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Basically, the original sort of concept was to really focus on the town. And then once we got started, we sort of were like, well, you know, we really should try to get in there and interview some inmates. But the Arizona Department of Corrections is very strict. And they have a very strict policy as it pertains to the media. And so we basically they said you can do a phone interview with an inmate, which we did, and which was in the film for a little while, but just sort of did not really work. But we did try to do on-camera interviews with inmates. And I think that in the end, it's sort of, I don't know, I mean, we were trying to become very immersed in people's lives, so I don't know that even that would have been allowed to happen had we really been able to spend time on the inside.
And so curious, you know, we see what you end up with, but how many characters do you think that you intended to sort of follow and see what happens with? How many folks were actually in the film first before you narrowed it down to the ones that you focused on?
Yeah, we had a lot. Deb, do you want to chime in here? We had one that we was a much bigger character, Robert, who dances onto screen, and then yeah, we had several more. I mean,
yeah, we had Robert is a dancer correctional officer. We had a Native American polka player. We were seeking out a bail bondswoman who used to be a pro wrestler / porn star. Just random people we met in town. It wasn't even anyone we seeked out. We would just come across them and be like, you're interesting.
Yeah, there were a lot.
Tons and tons.
Yeah, I think for a while it was sort of like, okay, we're gonna make a portrait of this place and we're gonna just get a lot of different voices. And then we sort of fell in love with Lene and Andy and the other people that we follow a little more closely. And we said, actually, like, let's it's better if it's a little bit more intimate, if it's a little bit more like we're living with these people.
Right. You got some DVD extras, maybe?
Definitely DVD extras.
Yes, please.
I'm always, I love the film when I was looking. I'm always curious to know, when you went in, what was the perception of the people you talked to in terms of what type of film you were making? And then after the fact, have you shown the film to people? How
That's a really good question, and I'm gonna answer part A, and I'm gonna let the Florentinos of the crew answer part B. We would, and Deb, you can chime in too on this one. Yeah, we went in and we would say, oh, we're making a film about the town. That's basically what we said, and I think that people would say, well, what is it? The history of the town? Is it the prisons? Is it? And I think, you know, people in Florence would generally get their backs up a little bit if we said it was, you know, about the prisons. And it never really was about the prisons. It was really about this place that was really unique and strange and this sort of slice of Americana that we were just interested in capturing the spirit of. And so yeah, we sort of, I don't know, that was generally what we said. And we did show the film in Florence 3 weeks ago on the patio of the River Bottom Bar and Grill. And these guys were all there. Fred, you want to?
Well, when I first met Andy, I thought it would be a historical presentation of the town and certain families, like my family, that had been there for about 6, 7 generations. And that was my perspective, but later on I found out different.
Lene, do you want to talk about a little bit about what the reception's been like in Florence?
It was kind of shocky for me because, first of all, I'm a newcomer. I've only been there 6 years, and why they picked me instead of a local person, people are still grumbling about that. But I didn't have any control of that, you know. And because the name is Florence, Arizona, it's so all-encompassing. A lot of them showed up thinking it was going to be a tourism piece about how lovely it is to live there, and they were disappointed when they walked away. But all the out-of-towners that came to see it loved it. But if you lived there, you wanted it to be, this is the greatest town in America.
Yeah, they, you know, people want it to be sort of a promotional piece, and you know, I sort of said to somebody, if you want that, you have to pay for it. Sort of jokingly, but not really. Yeah, I think that the reactions in town were very mixed. There were a lot of people who said, you did a really great job, you captured the spirit. but you know, it was a little negative, which for me means it was a little too heavy on talking about the prisons.
Right.
And I think there were a lot of whats after the screening. They just didn't know what to make of it, because I don't think it's like a film a lot of people in town had ever seen before.
Right over there, please.
Hey, Andy, it's Deanna.
Hey.
So your film touches on so many different parts of the law enforcement industry and so many different political issues in terms of showing what people are incarcerated for and what, you know, the ramifications of that are. So was it difficult for you in trying to control making it too political, or how did you handle not making it really have an agenda as much?
Yeah, I mean, I think going in, I never really wanted it to be a film that had an agenda, or that had a very like heavy-handed social issue side to it. I wanted it to be an emotional film. I wanted it to be funny. I wanted it to be fun. And I think that generally people are going to go along with you for the social issue if they're also hooked in by the characters and sort of like the spirit and the energy. And I think that, you know, it was definitely difficult to sort of balance everything, and I had a lot of really great help in the edit to do those things. So yeah.
So we have time for one last question. Who's the most eager at this part? Right here. Yep.
So I'm wondering, because I understand that, you know, the crime rate in the United States is dropping, and I see that, you know, there seems to be, Obama's trying to legalize non-citizens. So what's going to happen to the prison industry? How are they going to fill the cells once, you know, with all those issues that are going to have an influence on that?
Wouldn't it be nice for it to all go away? And it has been declining because they're not picking up as many detainees. They've got, you know, if they'll have 4 pods of cells, 2 of them are empty now. I just took a tour with the Chamber of Commerce 2 weeks ago. There was a lot of empty places, so this is good.
I mean, I think it is a concern for towns like Florence, who definitely, you know, Florence is alive in many ways because of the prison industry, but it has so much more to it that I you know, on the one hand, you know, it's the industry in town, and then all of the wonderful parts about Florence, as so many other small towns across America. If it didn't have that industry, it would have just, you know, it would have just sort of faded away. I hope that's not sort of offensive to you guys, but do you feel like that? Do you feel like the prisons, without the prisons, what would happen to Florence, sort of?
Well, definitely I think that the prison system has brought a lot of jobs to the community, and for that particular reason it's been a positive thing, but the fact that we've added on so many prisons there, I think that's sort of a negative perspective to the community over there. Although I hope that it stops at some time in the future.
So unfortunately, we're going to have to wrap up, but I want to thank you so much for bringing the film to Dr. NYC.
And we're having some drinks over at Val de Nuit, and you're all invited to come. So it's on West 4th Street.